Right. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for having me in today. Um, I was lucky enough to be in one of the children's sessions on Tuesday, and I was kind of teaching them some similar things because it doesn't matter if you've been an adult or a child, this year has been something special, that's for sure. And the things that used to work for us probably don't anymore. We probably have gotten rid of all of our spoons, beans, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's been like nothing I've ever experienced, that's for sure. So what I want to do today is do kind of like a small, I have a whole presentation. It's probably about an hour and 15 minutes. It's called Emotional First Aid. And it has to do with things like tapping, breathing, energy medicine exercises. It's really awesome because it kind of explains what stress does, how it acts on our body, how our brain is really, really trying to help us, but things kind of go off kilter because it just turns on and it doesn't turn off anymore. But instead of going through all of that today, it's a bigger presentation. So I just kind of shaved it down into some really practical things that you could do. And sometimes we don't know why we feel the way we do when we have so much stress. So this is just kind of a really nice little overview about stress, what happens when we're in it for a long time, and some really practical ways that you can help alleviate that. And we're going to go through them together because we can do them right here on the presentation today. When we're near the end, Mary's going to put on some of the resources. So on my website, I have a free resources section, and it actually has the whole presentation. The sound quality on it, it was kind of my first try at doing this. So the sound quality, it's not superb, but it does definitely go through the whole presentation for you. So you can always watch it there. And I'll also be doing more recordings of things. There's some little apps, phone apps that you can get that really help with these. So lots of resources, lots of ways to help yourself. And I'm really, really passionate about it because we've been told for a long time that if we've had trauma or had something happen in our life, we just might have to find ways to cope with it. And you really can't heal from some of these things. And now we know it's just not true. There are lots of things available now to help us that we didn't know about before. And I certainly don't want to see anybody suffer longer than they have to. And a lot of this is new. So if you have any questions or, something comes up down the road that you think, jeepers, I wonder what, this is all about, don't ever hesitate to get in touch with me because I can talk about this stuff all day, every day. So if I kind of get off track, that's why I made some notes to keep me on track. And we'll just start with the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I think it's this one. No, it's not that one. Second here. Sorry, guys. Let me just see if I can get this up on my screen here. There we go. There it is. Okay. All right. Can everybody see this okay? I can't see you anymore. So can somebody just say yes or no? Or
yeah, we can see it, Christine.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So this is just a little bit about me. I was the weird sheep of the family. I always brought home ideas nobody had ever heard about before. And I have used energy medicine, Reiki, all kinds of things for years, but I'm also paramedic trained. So I'm an and person, not an or person. I think we need all of our tools. And when we use all the tools possible, I think we get a much better result when it comes to our healthcare. So the presentation today is about emotional first aid. And why do we want to learn emotional first aid? Well, there's enough ups and downs in life without adding COVID in and the length of time we've been dealing with it. The usual coping mechanisms that we use might not be working anymore, and our inner resources just might be completely gone. So that's a normal response to what's been going on, but it doesn't really give us anything to help build us back up after this. So emotional first aid can help people calm down, can help speed up healing, helps you ground you back into the here and now. You can't problem solve when you flipped your lid with stress, so it does help problem solving. And it also can decrease conflict. So if you've got two people that are very, very heightened, parent-child, adult to adult, and everybody's a little elevated, it's just usually not very good. So all of the emotional first aid exercises can really help with those things. So it's important to realize that emotional first aid doesn't replace or substitute mental health services. So if you're having difficulty, you need to talk to your doctor or your therapist or your counselor. These are really safe, easy activities that can go along with whatever you're doing. You don't ever stop medication. You don't ever do anything that's different without talking to your major healthcare provider first, okay? So a quick intro about stress. We're biologically wired for survival. So when it comes to stressful times, we can experience a bunch of different states. So it's not always, get up and run. We might have fight, which is you're ready to take things on. There's flight, which means you're going to run away from the problem. There's freeze, and basically it's the deer in the headlights. So you just kind of stop and you can't go anywhere. You can't move forward or backwards. That's freeze. And then there's flop. And flop is kind of like what it sounds. All your energy goes down, and it's a survival mechanism. So if you're playing dead, hopefully the predator that might be, coming to attack you is going to leave you alone because it thinks that you're dead. And there's all kinds of different little parts in our brain that have control of these things, even when we're not conscious of it. So if you've ever had something very startling happen, or like you were in a fire or an accident, sometimes you're up and running and you're getting away from the danger before you even realize what's happened, because our brain is really always trying to help us. And that's why sometimes when people have big stressors, you kind of almost expect yourself to be elevated or nervous or like jittery all the time. But sometimes it might be laying on the couch. It might be not able to do your regular work. And those states are also part of fight, flight, freeze, and flop when we've had a lot of stress happen in our lives. If anybody has any questions or anything while we're talking about this, don't hesitate to interrupt me and I can open the window back up, okay? So symptoms of trauma and stress, you've got anxiety, fears, emotional distress. It can affect our sleep. We can feel really hypervigilant, so like everything is important. We can have digestive problems, stomach problems. Our heart can beat faster. We might lay on the couch because we can't think clearly. And the thing is that short-term stress can save our lives, but long-term stress can disrupt our lives with physical and emotional symptoms, just like we see on this chart. Our brain, as I said before, always wants to help us. So short term, everything gets very colorful, very bright, and you can react to potential dangers. But over a long period of time, it's like your brain just gets stuck and it thinks it needs to look for danger all the time. And that's where the long-term stress ends up. It's really tiring. It's exhausting because your brain is always on the lookout for danger, whether it needs to or not. And that's when we start getting into that long-term symptoms of trauma and stress causing problems in our daily lives. It's also important to remember that trauma is not the event that happened. Trauma is what happens inside you after the event that happened. So you might have two people that have the exact same experience. One may be traumatized, one may not. And the reason that you might be traumatized versus not being traumatized, there are a lot of different factors. It can be everything from what's your baseline of stress generally? What's your life been like in the last 2 or 3 years? Lots of different reasons why one person might be very traumatized at an event and another person might not. So that's important to remember as well. This ACE study, this has to do with kids, and ACE is adverse childhood experiences. And they called it the biggest social experiment nobody ever heard of. And they interviewed about 17,000 people about adverse effects of their childhood. And what they found was the higher the number of adverse experiences when you're a child, the higher the likelihood of problems in adulthood. That can be mental health and physical health. So one thing I'm really grateful for is that our understanding of children's trauma is improving. And it's so important to have more resources to help children early in their lives instead of waiting until they're adults with these problems that have been developing for years. A lot of times we'll say, you know, kids are so resilient. Well, sometimes they have to be, but it doesn't mean that there isn't some trauma that really needs to be addressed so they can be as healthy as possible for the rest of their lives. So being stress and trauma prepared. This isn't a course where you're going to be expected to go out and, you know, suddenly start telling everybody about this, but because they're easy to use, because you can do them yourself, because they're easy to share with friends, kids, families, students, they really do help you manage the symptoms of stress and trauma. And that's really important, especially now. I mean, I don't know any kids who haven't just felt like the end of the world was around because of all the changes with the schooling and then not being able to see friends and family. It's been an awful, awful lot. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. Okay, so does that all make sense so far? Is there anything that maybe you've talked about that seems off or weird, or you've never heard of it before? Does it seem pretty reasonable to think that long-term stress has probably affected all of us, especially after this year? Does anybody have any questions or anything? I just don't want to kind of plow through if anybody has any questions or anything. We're all good? Okay. Just go back to the screen sharing there.
You can always put questions in the chat as well if you'd rather not speak.
Yes, fine too. For sure, for sure. Okay. Okay, so the first activity we're going to do is called heart breathing. And if you're interested in all things to do with the heart and our heart energy field, heartmath.com is a really great place to go and investigate. Our heart has a huge energy field and it affects things around us. It affects us as well. So this heart breathing exercise is very simple. And I have a couple of friends who use it with their kids so that as soon as they put their hands over their heart, like the first picture in the red box there, it's a really great way to kind of signal that, you know what, I'm struggling a little bit and I need a moment. Because sometimes voices get raised, you know, different people are talking, but this is a really quiet, kind way to just put your hands on your chest so that people can look at you and say, oh, maybe we need to stop for a minute. Maybe we need to all take a breath. So if you want to follow along with me, the way to do heart breathing is super simple. You can put one hand on your chest, kind of in the middle, or you can put both hands on your chest, whatever feels good to you, whatever feels comfortable. And what you can do when you have your hands on your chest is just be aware of where your hands are. So you want to focus your attention around the area of your heart. And you can kind of feel the warmth of your hands through your shirt. You can feel your chest rise and fall. And just focus on those sensations and breathe in and out through your nose. Just try that for a few breaths. Another part of this exercise is that you can breathe slowly and deeply as if you're breathing in and out through your heart. So when you breathe in, you can imagine air going into your heart. And when you breathe out, you can imagine the air coming out of your heart. Not everybody can picture things in their mind. So if you can call up a picture like that, that's great. If you're not a person who can like visualize easily, just focus on the feeling of your hands on your chest. And that's also part of mindfulness, is putting your attention on something that you can feel or sense to bring you back into the present. And let's just try 3 more breaths like this. So that's heart breathing. Very easy. You can show anybody from little children all the way up to seniors how to do this. And it just brings you back into the present, focuses your breath. And when you breathe through your nose, you're more likely to use your diaphragm a little bit more, which helps you relax even further. Okay. The next exercise is called the butterfly hug. This was developed by someone who was working with survivors of Hurricane Pauline in Mexico in 1998. So with the butterfly hug, if you're able, you cross your hands on your chest as in the picture. Okay, and again, not everybody can move their arms the same way. So if you can only put one hand across, if you can't put your arms up like this, you can imagine it. Because actually imagining doing these exercises also works. So if you can cross your hands on your chest, it doesn't matter if it's right over left or left over right. And then you're just going to flap your hands slowly like the wings of a butterfly. So you can do one hand at a time, nice and slowly. You can do 2 hands at a time. And just breathe slowly in and out through your nose. And just notice if your body feels a little different once you're done this. Let's do this for 5 breaths. Great. I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. If you were able to follow along with us doing the exercises, did anybody notice anything that felt a little different? Did you notice if your breathing slowed down or if your body felt different after we finished either the heart breathing or the butterfly hug? You can usually feel a bit more when we do, oh, hi, Louise.
I felt really different when I did the heart breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe I just have to practice the butterfly feeling one, and I didn't really feel much.
Yep, and that's actually a really good point, because it's like with any other kind of exercise. There are going to be some that you'll feel maybe differently than others. And maybe you'll find 2 or 3 that you say, wow, this really made me feel great. The other couple, I didn't feel too much. But everyone's different. Maybe you won't notice too much today when you do the butterfly hug, but maybe on another day you might feel differently. So that's why it's great to have a bunch of different exercises that you can try different times and see if one feels better today. Maybe tomorrow it's going to be something completely different. So that's a great observation. Okay. All right. So hi, Phyllis.
Hi. For each of these hugs or breathing, so should we do it the same amount of time you suggested now, or should we do it longer when we're doing it on our own?
You can do it. You can do it for as long as you would like or have time. I find the heart breathing, if I don't have very much time, kind of like Louise was mentioning, I find I get a quicker effect when I do the heart breathing. If you have more time, you can do 10 minutes, you can do 20 minutes, as long as your arms don't get tired from doing the butterfly. Whatever feels good for you. You can't overdo this because you're basically just helping to calm yourself down, get your parasympathetic part of our nervous system back online, which is what kind of gets squashed down a bit when we have all this stress. It's kind of our holy mackerel side of our nervous system is taking over when we need to help bring things back down. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And I love these exercises because if you're sitting at your desk, if you're still working, or if you're in the car and you're on your way and you feel yourself getting a little elevated, you can do things for like 1 minute and just come back to center, feel a little more grounded. And if you've got 1 minute to do it, that's really good and effective. If you've got 10 minutes to do it, that's fine too. Okay? Awesome. So that's heart breathing and the butterfly hug. All right. The next thing I want to talk about, it's not really an exercise, but it's all about nose breathing. Now, nose breathing is really, really, really important. And I'm also a Buteyko breathing educator. So Buteyko breathing helps us understand that we were meant to breathe through our nose. What happens when we get really stressed is it's a lot easier to move more air when we breathe through our mouth. So if we're really, really stressed, we're going to breathe faster because that's part of our stress response. And instead of, breathing out really, really fast in and out through our nose, we tend to open our mouth because we can move more air that way. When we mouth breathe, we also tend to breathe more up in our chest instead of down in our tummy or our diaphragm. So there's a lot of reasons why we need to breathe through our nose. Sometimes it takes some practice. Sometimes we just get into the habit of doing it. Sometimes we have asthma or allergies, different things. But Buteyko breathing can really help people that have trouble with asthma, allergies, snoring, stress, anxiety. But in the simplest terms, the very biggest thing you can do for your health is just breathe through your nose. You don't have to count. You don't have to make it a big thing. Just try and breathe through your nose as much as you can. And you might find that that is very, very helpful. When we breathe through our nose, it also helps us belly breathe a little easier. It's really hard to breathe with your diaphragm or down into your belly when you've got your mouth open. So when you close your mouth and you breathe gently through your nose, you're more likely to start to use your diaphragm. And that's where we get those nice relaxing breaths from. Okay. So the next exercise is called the stress blowout. Now this one's kind of hilarious because kids thinks it's amazing. Sometimes when we have stress, it's like we're always telling ourselves to calm down. I have to calm down, I have to calm down. But sometimes what we need to do is activate stuff. Because remember we talked about fight, flight, flop, and freeze. Well, sometimes we get in that flop or freeze state and we need to get things moving instead of like calm down all the time. So the stress blowout, you may or may not want to do it right now, but what you're doing with this is you take a deep breath and lift both hands over your head if you can, and then you pull your fist down fast and you go like that and open your hands and shake them out. Put your hands over your head and take a deep breath in, and then pull your fist down fast while blowing out the air. So you're moving your body, you're getting your breathing a little more active, and it really helps to start to move your energy. So if you've got kids that are a little beside themselves, if you just feel like you need to go for a big long walk or you need a quick way to get rid of some of this energy that's building up, this is a really fun one to do. You may want to take note of where you are when you do this. Some people might not know what you're doing and they might think something's wrong. But if you have a group of kids and you teach them how to do this, you're giving them a tool so that when they start to feel like things are building up inside them, you can say, do you need a stress blowout? Let's go and do this. And instead of waiting until things explode, you can help them really get rid of that energy. Okay. Any questions about the stress blowout or the nose breathing? Awesome. I'm going to keep on going. Okay, so our next exercise is called the 4 thumps. So as you can see with the different exercises, the first ones were to kind of help calm us down, get our breathing under control. These next couple of exercises are to get things going again. So if you've had a shocking experience, sometimes it paralyze you, or you just think, I can't stop thinking about this. So these next 2 exercises help the energy start to move back through your system. Because one of the things that we found with trauma and stress is that a traumatic event is one that hasn't made its way all the way through your body. So if you think of it like a circle, we have the event, it's at the bottom of the circle, and then we have the activation. So that's when all of your systems, pop into effect, and we get into fight or flight, and we're ready to go. Then there's the resolution phase. So resolution means you've gotten yourself out of danger, you're starting to feel safe again, and your body can return to normal. So that's the whole stress cycle. But what can happen is that we can have the event, we get mobilized, and then things stop. And that's usually when people have symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, because their body has not been able to come back to safety. And there's lots and lots of research showing that it's actually our body that we need to deal with, not the same way as we have always thought it was our mind that we have to deal with when it comes to PTSD and trauma. It's actually our body. So these exercises help our body finish this cycle. So the 4 thumps here, there are 4 tapping points on your body that help to mobilize our energy and release that shock out of our system. So the first, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go through this with you, but I'm going to stop sharing the screen because I want to be able to see you do this. And I want you to be able to see me do this. So the first tapping point, is anybody familiar with EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique, things like that? Awesome. So this point, just under your eye, on the little bony ridge of your skull right here, that's an important part. And you can use 1 finger, 2 finger, whatever's easiest for you. So this is a kidney point. And kidneys have to deal with our fear. So we're going to tap on this little point right here, just gently, because it's delicate skin. It's going to tap, 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 tap. And that's going to start to tell our kidney meridian, hey, 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 everything's okay. We can calm down a little bit. Because again, our body's always trying to help us, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes. So that's the first point. Okay. The second point, here. So the little nubbly bits here on our collarbones, just below that. So that's another tapping point, and that's another kidney point. So that helps with fear as well. So we're just going to tap away on that. That's point number 2. Okay. And as always, if you have any injury, if it's not comfortable, you can go very lightly or you can skip that point as well. The third point is our thymus. So our thymus is on our breastbone, right in the middle of our chest. You can tap that lightly. Usually when I'm doing 4 thumps, I'm giving it a good go because something's happened and I need to move things quickly. But you just tap in the middle of your chest. If anybody knows about energy medicine, like Donna Eden, she calls this the thymus thump. And our thymus gland is a big part of our immune system. And when we're little, it's really big, but as we get older, it gets smaller and smaller. So when we tap on our chest in the middle, we're helping to stimulate our immune system as well. The fourth point is just under our armpits. So if you're a lady, it would be where your bra strap would be. If you're not a lady, it would probably be 3 or 4 inches below your underarm. Okay, and you just kind of tap however you can reach. It's a little, let me see if I can put this down a little bit. So kind of just about right here, about 4 or 5 inches below your armpit, wherever you can reach comfortably. Okay, so now that we know where they are, let's tap about 15 times on each point, and we'll just go through them all together. Okay, so we're going to start just under your eye. And breathe in and out through your nose. Feel your body start to pick up a little energy. And then we're going to go down to our collarbone points. Breathe in and out through your nose. Then we're going to go to the thymus thump in the middle of our chest. Okay, remember, just do as is comfortable. And then we're going to go to that point under our arm. It might also be more comfortable to like reach around and tap on one side instead of trying to do it the way I was showing you, whatever's comfortable. Okay, and then when you're done with those underarm points, just take a moment, take a big breath in and let it go out. Can you feel any difference in your energy after doing those 4 thumps? And like we said, may or may not show up right away, but I like that one when I need to like have a break in the afternoon. If instead of reaching for another coffee, or maybe I just need to get a bit more focused, I find that the 4 thumps really help me feel a little more energetic, but a kind of a clear energy. So not like a frantic energy, it's a little more clear. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the 4 thumps? It's pretty self-explanatory. I like simple and I like effective. Phyllis, have you got your hand up there?
Yeah, I've tried EFT on my own.
Yep.
And did it for about a month or so, and I have anxiety.
Okay.
And I didn't think it didn't. Do you have any suggestions how to make it work if there, or it just with some people doesn't work, or does it have to be a longer period of time?
I look at energy medicine like anything else. There are lots of different things that probably work for many people, but there's not like one thing doesn't work for everybody. There are also a lot of different ways to do tapping or EFT. So the next exercise I'm going to show you, it's called the trauma tapping technique. So the folks that created this presentation and created what I'm going to show you next, they worked with like the child soldiers in the Congo. They worked with victims from the Rwandan massacre. So it's kind of short, sweet, and it gets to the point. But there can also be other things that might go on in your life that maybe we have to look after first. You know what I mean? Like when I see people for the breathing, for example, I had a client who she just didn't believe anything could ever help her again. So there was no real reason for me to start teaching her breathing exercises if she didn't believe something was going to change. So I worked with her for 2 weeks with flower essences. So they're not oils, they're actual flower essences, the energy of flowers. And we worked with her for a couple of weeks until she got to the point where she said, you know what, I think maybe something might work. So we didn't go from, I don't believe it, to absolutely everything's going to be fine, but we got her to just shift that little bit to say, maybe this could work. And that was what we needed. So there might be other things that maybe need to be addressed. Maybe you need to work one-on-one with somebody because they might be able to kind of find where you need to start. When I say I have anxiety, maybe it's a little more specific than that. Maybe you need somebody to kind of help you get to the root of the anxiety. And sometimes it takes a few times to do that, but I would say don't give up on it. Maybe see if there's a practitioner in your area that you could work with and just see what you might be able to get with that. And if the tapping doesn't work, there's tons of other energy medicine things that, you know, can probably help. Everybody has their own unique formula when it comes to healing and things.
It's hard to find it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? If I can ever help with anything, Phyllis, don't hesitate to get hold of me. I can see if I can find somebody in your area. I mean, I definitely, yeah, exactly, Laura. Everybody has their own formula. And half the problem with this stuff too is sometimes it's so new, you don't always know the questions to ask. So you kind of go around a bit of a loop. But if I can help with anything, help you find a practitioner, don't hesitate to get in touch, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Louise?
For me, it's like doing deep breathing, but in and out of my nose. And that really relaxes me.
Yeah.
Everything else is extra.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. There's so much that goes on chemically, physiologically, everything, and energetically when we breathe through our nose. It's incredible. And so I think the important thing is to try a few things, find out what works for you, and then kind of build on it from there. But find a couple of things that you know are your go-tos that are going to work for you. And then you know that you've got that confidence in those things. That make sense? I wish there was a magic bullet. I wish there was a magic formula where one thing worked for everybody. But we're all different, you know, balls of symptoms. We've got different experiences in our life. I was reading one day and they said, you know, as you're walking around right now, you are the sum total of all your experiences. And that's a lot of experiences. So it doesn't, it makes sense that we might have to do a little detective work when it comes to what really works for each of us. Okay. And I'm just going to check the chat. There we go. I did, there we go. Yeah, the resources are in the chat right now. They'll be on there for the rest of the presentation. I think I just have one or two more things for us here. And then we can talk some more. Okay, so that was the 4 thumbs. And again, that helps mobilize us. So this last one, don't get worried with all the numbers and how do I do this, because I'm going to walk you right through it. So this trauma tapping technique, what it does is it helps take the charge out of a traumatic event and it desensitizes the stress reactions to that, okay? I'm just going to stop sharing because I'm going to lead you right through it. Sometimes it's a little more confusing to try and follow along that, okay? So this trauma tapping technique, in the list of resources in the chat, there is a YouTube video and it's called the Trauma Tapping Song. And if you're having a down day and you watch this, you're not going to be having a down day after. It's so much fun. It's done with a group of kids in Africa who are acrobats. And they just take you through the song, they show you how to do it, and you're kind of tapping your toes and moving around with this song by the time it's all over. There's also a phone app, and the phone app is called Self-Help for Trauma. And it has a really sweet little movie. And the little character in the movie is called Winky. There's no voices, there's no words, because they developed it so that anybody could watch this and anybody can follow along with it. So you didn't have to speak a certain language. You didn't have to really be able to connect that way. You can just follow through it. Great for kids. If you've got any older kids that you know or kids with phones, to have them, to show them this app and then let them have that ability to soothe themselves, help bring down their stress, it really shows them that they can have those tools at their own fingertips, okay? So the trauma tapping, if you want a technical explanation of what it does, is in our brain, we have a little gland called the amygdala, and that is what decides whether we're going to run, stop, freeze, or fall over when stress comes in. So when we have had a stressful experience, there's a memory associated with that. And what this tapping will do is, let's say, for example, someone had a dog bite, and we were just lightly talking about it. Remember earlier I said there's different ways to do tapping in EFT? You may have heard the formula. So somebody might say, even though I feel really scared about dogs, I deeply love and accept myself, or, I'm still a good person. You might have heard that formula for that. Still works, still great. There's many different ways to do it. With the trauma tapping, we don't necessarily go back to that word pattern because we don't always want to be thinking about what it was that was so traumatic. So I might use 2 different styles with 2 different people, depending on the person. So with this one, if you kind of told me what was going on about, gee, I got bitten by a dog and I just don't like dogs much anymore. Well, you're already kind of there. So we're just going to start tapping on the outside edge of our hand right here. We call it the karate chop. So if you want to go through and tap the points with me just for fun, this is how we'd start. So we just tap on the outside edge of our hand for a minute. Okay. And that just starts to bring the memory. And as we're tapping, it actually dissolves the connection between the memory and our stress response. And that's how the stuff works. So the next point is our eyebrow points, right there. And you can use 1 finger or 2 fingers. Just keep breathing in gently through your nose, in and out. And then we're going to move to the outside edge of our eyebrows. It is easier without glasses. I usually flip mine off by the 3rd or 4th set of points. And then we're going to go down to the point under our eye that we did with the 4 thumbs. That's just a gentle one, remember, that's delicate skin. The next one is just under our nose in the little divot above our lip. Don't forget to keep breathing. The next one is just on our chin, below our lip. Okay. Now with the trauma tapping, I always say to the kids, now we're going to do a Tarzan, because you take all your fingers and you just go anywhere all over your chest. There's lots of different points on our chests that can get stimulated this way. And then those little points just under our armpits again, we're just going to tap on those a little bit. And if you can only do one side, just do one side, whatever's comfortable for you. Okay. Now the next part of the formula is pick a hand and you're going to tap on the inside edge of your finger up near the nail. Keep breathing. And then you're going to go to the inside edge of your ring finger, inside edge of your middle finger, inside edge of your first finger, and then the outside edge of your thumb. Okay. Now taking a big breath and hold it, and then out. Big breath in and hold it, and then out. So that's half of the formula. If we were going to complete the whole thing, then we go through and start on the other hand, the one that we didn't do yet. We tap on the outside edge of that hand, and then we go through and do the face points, and then we do all of the inside edges of our other hand. Okay, this is all in the little phone app. This is all in the movie, but this is kind of a short, sweet, and to the point version of tapping. And Louise, I tend to start to yawn right about now too when I do this, because I just can start to feel things start to calm down a little bit. Does anybody feel any different now than say when we started the meeting? Because we've done a few of the little energy exercises. Does anybody feel a bit more relaxed, a little bit more calm? Louise?
I feel much more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that I focus on my breathing. I've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
But this one relaxed me.
Yeah.
Like you said, I yawned.
There's a couple of them that for me, they get me kind of going, which I like. So it's nice to have some that calm me, some that get me going, depending on, what I'm doing during the day. And it's just so nice to have a few things at your fingertips to, yes, Arthur, it's relaxed yet alert. That's the part that I like about it. And don't worry, when things go off the rails, this last year, I mean, I do this for a living. I help people every day. There were days I'd look in the mirror and say, you do this stuff, right? Because we're all still human and we all still have things that take us off, and some days are better than others. So don't ever be hard on yourself because self-care goes out the window. It's been quite the year for self-care and all these different things. But if you can do a few of these things, if they just help make you feel a little more balanced, a little more clear, a little more relaxed, it's just a really nice thing to be able to do for yourself. And that's why I love this so much. So those are all of the exercises that I wanted to share with you today and the resources. This trauma tapping technique, it's always free. I do EFT for clients, some of the other different things, but as far as the trauma tapping, it's always designed to be free. And if you're interested in that, it's peacefulheart.se. I forgot to send that link to you, Mary, but it's peacefulheart.se. I'm in the middle of getting certified so that I can teach people, I can have circles. But if you have any friends, if you have any kids, you can go on there and you can learn this. You can look at the different exercises, practice them together, have some fun, and share this stuff. It's meant to be shared. And like I said, if there's anything I can do to help you find a practitioner, chat with you if you've got questions about anything that I do, I would love to chat anytime. Does anybody have any questions or anything or observations? We're all nice and relaxed now. Yeah.
Yes, might have to go have a nap now.
It's pretty effective. It's pretty effective. And I find too that the more that you do it, the easier you kind of it's like any kind of practice. Oh yeah, now I should start to feel more relaxed. So you kind of build in that feedback loop as well, but it feels kind of nice. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Phyllis has a question there, I think.
How often should we do it a day?
Often as you
2
want.
times? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. You can't overdo this. If you overdo it, you'll just lay down and have a nap. That's pretty much all.
What about before going to sleep? Like if you have insomnia, does that help too?
Very much, very much. One of the other resources too, Phyllis, in the chat, there's 2 apps. So there's the self-help for trauma. So that's the little winky guy who has you go through the whole formula, which is really nice. The other one is called the Tapping Solution Meditation. So there's lots of free scripts on that app. If you've heard of Nick Ortner, he's very famous because he's written a lot of different books and had a lot of different presentations about tapping. He's really kind of brought it into the mainstream. So if you want to pay for the app, you can pay, I think it's $10 a month, and get the whole library. I just use the free ones because it's kind of worked for me. They're guided. So you can put your headphones on. It'll show you where to tap. It's that little different recipe of tapping that we were talking about with a setup phrase, even though I'm feeling a little, anxious before I go to sleep. But they walk you through it. And all you have to do is listen to it. It will show you on the app where to tap and when to tap. There's reducing anxiety. There's a whole library of fear of COVID or COVID stress on there for everything from like little children to adults. It's actually an excellent resource and I highly recommend it as well. You can find lots of things in there. How to have a productive day. I like that one in the morning because it just kind of gets your mood up and it gets you ready to go too. So I highly recommend that resource too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful to be able to have some practical tools, in our pocket
Yeah.
for those times when, we are out of control, sort of, with
Oh,
our
agreed.
emotions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we're doing this tapping, Christine, do you suggest that we just not think about the thing that might be stressing us out, or do we just put our focus on this tapping, or it's sometimes, I mean, sometimes it's just really difficult if you're in such an
Yes,
intense emotional stressful state to let go of
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. The tapping is what's going to help sever that connection between the event and the emotion around it. So it's going to be the tapping that does it. You don't have to try and avoid it. It's just going to happen. It might take a few times. If you can think lightly about it. So with some of the tapping, they say, think about it till you're at like a 3 or a 4. Depending on what it is, you might go right to a 9. Like if it's very upsetting. So you can just tap and even just think lightly about it. So you don't have to get into it. You can just keep tapping. Okay? That's what I love about this way is you don't have to figure out too much about it. You can just start to tap and you'll start to feel more relaxed. As you feel more relaxed, you might be able to go, okay, now I think I might want to think about that a little bit, and it might feel okay to go there, and then you can just keep tapping some more on it. Yeah. But if anybody wants any help tapping through something with this trauma tapping, I'd be happy to connect with you on Zoom or something and, try a few different ways, go through some of the scripts and see what works as well. So.
Excellent.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you
You're so
so
welcome.
much for all those resources. Those are great. And, you've gone through so much material, so it's
I know.
helpful to have these apps or
Yeah.
these resources that you've referred us to on your website. So they are posted in the chats. And you can take a copy of the chats if you like, just by clicking on those
Mhm.
3 little dots and choosing Save Chat. Or you can you can click on the links and those pages will open for you before you leave, if you like, whichever works for you.
I think it's important to have things that you don't have to remember, because I have a brain like a sieve lately, and I know it's because of the stress and things, and I hear that a lot. So I don't want you to have to remember anything else. Print the thing out, stick it on your fridge, and when you walk by, go, oh yeah, I should do this, and then you'll actually do it. So if I had stock in Post-it notes, I'd be a rich lady right now, because that's all I got.
Yes, yes, awesome.
Great.
Right, does anybody have any last comments, questions for Christine? Or Christine, do you have any last closing thoughts for us today?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me here. And, we have the ability to do more for ourselves than we've really been taught. And if I can help with anything, I'm a great cheerleader and an encourager as well. And, happy to help anytime I can. And I really appreciate being here today for sure.
Thank you.
Great.
All right. Well, that was wonderful. And today is actually, this session is actually the closing session of
That's right.
Healing and Freeing Camp. It's been a full week of lots of activities and things. So the recording from this session and from all of our previous sessions that were recorded will be on our website at awakeningspirituality.ca. It will be in other places as well. That's just the first one that comes to mind. And we do have other ongoing activities this summer, because this is just really one camp out of many camps we have going on normally during the summertime that have all pivoted to online. And so if you'd like to check out some of the other activities that we have for those camps, you can check them out at ecamping.ca. That's just ecamping.ca.
Neat.
Awakening Spirituality does have a couple of other activities coming up on Sunday night. We have fireside chats with Anna, and on Monday afternoon there will be a discussion on A Course in Miracles. So if those are of interest to you, check out the details on awakeningspirituality.ca. And hopefully we'll see you at some of those other things as well. And we'll have to have Christine back.
Okay.
I'm sure there's more.
Oh, there's more.
I thought so. Yes.
Thanks again, everybody.
Everyone. Yes.
Do you have any idea, like the sessions that's taking place through